Welcome to Grit with Wisdom. This is the podcast that delves deep into the inner psyche of mountain bikers from all walks of life in order to discover the tools and the tactics that can help us have more fun out on the trails more often. Our aim here is to help you understand what it takes to push our own personal boundaries in the sport we love from a mental and emotional perspective. Today, I was lucky enough to sit down for a chat and then go for a ride with Ollie Lowthorpe. Ollie is a professional mountain biker based out of Squamish here in BC. Originally from Jersey in the Channel Islands off of the UK, his roots lie in XC racing, having competed from a young age and most notably made it to the Commonwealth Games in Australia back in 2018. These days, his riding taste has evolved to match the gnarly environment that he now calls home, much of which he captures and posts on his popular YouTube and Instagram pages, which are known for steep granite slabs, stylish flow, and of course the infamous rubber ducky on his handlebars. We dig into some of the challenges with pressure and injury that he faced during his racing days, and how that has now shaped his laid-back, do-it-for-fun approach to riding. This has led to a healthier relationship with things like assessing risks, fear whilst riding, and self-belief. Listen in as we dissect these processes, give you a couple of tools, and of course, have a laugh or two along the way. Enjoy. Hey Ollie, welcome to the show, man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here hanging out with me on the North Shore for the day.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic, man. So we've just been having a coffee, getting to know each other a little bit. And I'm super excited to get into this conversation and talk a little bit more about you, your mindset, and your mountain biking.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be really cool, though, to have you start just by telling our audience here a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? And what is it that you do?
Yeah, so I'm Ollie Lowthorpe. I basically grew up in Jersey Channel Islands, which for anybody that doesn't know where that is, it's a little island in between the UK and France, a little 8 by 14 kilometre island with not a huge amount of mountain biking. And yeah, I am a mountain biker, I guess.
There you go, man. So that was one of my first questions. From the Channel Islands there in between England and France,
Yeah.
part of the UK, where did you ride growing up? Did you ride bikes?
Yeah, I mean, my dream was kind of always to race downhill and do more extreme things, but being on such a small island with our downhill, like our longest downhill being maybe a minute,
Okay.
it wasn't really a viable thing. So I grew up racing doing road racing and cross-country racing, cyclocross, basically every racing discipline that I could, other than downhill. Mainly doing cross country, and yeah, the island is honestly is a beautiful island, and the road riding that there is awesome. There's a coastal cliff path that we used to go and ride on. There was a few cross country circuits that we used to train on, but my riding now does not portray my past. It's compared to the Lycra and now the full faces, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. I always find it so fascinating to hear, where someone's been from and what their upbringing was like compared to what they're doing now. And we'll get into that more in a second. I do have to stop and ask, though, being an Aussie, I do have a bit of a surfing background. The Channel Islands, is that where the surfboard brand comes from?
Which surfboard brand?
Channel Island.
Is there?
Yeah.
Probably.
It's big down
I would imagine so. There's a lot of surfing on the island.
Yeah.
There's a place called the Water Splash, which is this awesome little cafe, and there's surfboards and stuff in there, and it looks out onto what they call is the 5 mile beach, but it's not a St. Juan's beach, sorry. And yeah, the surfing is awesome. I'm not a huge fan of cold water, so I didn't surf too much or really go in the sea. But yeah, no, the surfing is really good there.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Sounds like a beautiful place to grow up. And thinking back to your upbringing or your teenage years, what was it that really drew you to bikes? What got you passionate about bikes in the first place?
Well, first off, it was my dad. He put me on a bike when I was young and took me to my first race when I was 8, and I happened to win that race, and then ever since that one win, I was kind of just chasing that. Like I was racing was always my main focus, and I was either kind of training for racing, or I was out in the woods trying to make little jumps and stuff with my buddies, normally crashing my cross-country bike. The super steep head angle going over the bars and stuff. But yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome. So you kind of took a liking to the racing right from a young age.
Yeah. I was racing all the way up until 2018.
Okay.
So I started taking it seriously when I was like 14 or something,
There you go.
and then all the way up until 21.
So what was it about the racing that you think you really liked? Was it, the actual competing or training, having a focus? What was it that really drew you there?
I think like my mindset of riding has changed massively, but back then it was winning.
Yeah, you enjoyed the feeling?
Yeah, I really did enjoy racing and winning. Like just the feeling of doing a cross-country race and feeling fit and being able to actually race the whole race was just an awesome feeling. It wasn't so awesome when you weren't feeling really good and you're slogging yourself around. And it was the same kind of thing with road racing. Like when you feel fit and you're like going up a climb and everyone's going as hard as you can and you're going as hard as you can too, and there's people dropping everywhere. It's just really fun. Totally,
man. And I think I can even relate, from the level of a hobbyist. Like when you're feeling fit and you're feeling good on the bike, it's awesome. It's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
And perhaps when you're on the opposite end of the scale, maybe after a break or a setback, it's not quite as enjoyable until you put the work in and got back.
No, yeah. With racing, there is a hell of a lot of work that goes in to it compared to, I guess, what I do now. Somewhat. So it's different.
Different work.
Yeah. Interval training compared to braking control training.
Yeah, so exactly right.
It's a little bit more chill.
So while we're on the subject of your racing, like I'd love to talk about, kind of where that took you, the places that took you, and some of the bigger competitions you got to before moving here to BC.
Yeah, so I mean, like the whole reason I ended up in BC was for training. My whole childhood, again, I was always racing, never really rode too much for fun other than because I was just messing about on some jumps. So needed somewhere to train, and I was training for the Commonwealth Games, which was the biggest race that I ever did. So the racing brought me here for training. But I didn't actually know really what I was getting into when I was coming to Squamish. Like I'd always wanted to go to Whistler, but I messaged Cycling Canada and a gentleman called Mike Sharuk, who was the BC provincial coach at the time. He let me come and stay at his house, and I spent the whole summer riding here. And it was kind of the first time I'd ridden for fun, really, more so than train. Like I just came out and rode for months, and it was awesome. But yeah, then ended up getting to the Commonwealth Games, which was a huge goal for myself. Did the road race and the cross country mountain bike. Unfortunately, I did break my collarbone 7 weeks before the games. Like I went to New Zealand training before the games, and met a tree that wasn't too friendly. It was such a ridiculous crash. I was actually on a hiking and biking trail getting to some trails, and there was just this 90-degree corner that I didn't realize, and it stepped away, and my front wheel went over, and I started going over the handlebars, not fast at all, but because I was going OTB, I hit the tree with my left handlebar, and then my body weight went forwards, and it wasn't even the initial impact that broke it. It was kind of the push afterwards as I went over the bars.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then that was... So I didn't do amazingly in the games, but
Man,
I got there, and I
wasn't last. Huge fight in itself.
Yeah, it was a very long time getting there. It was 3 years of my life training to get to those games.
Almost 3 years of training. You're out in Squamish. you're feeling the fun of riding.
Yeah.
For one of the first times, it sounds like taking maybe a less serious approach to some rides, which must have been great. But then you have this, this horribly unlucky accident there on an easy trip. How did that affect your mentality going into the games afterwards?
It was honestly mixed feelings. There had been so much pressure for the games from kind of everybody, and also the pressure I put on myself. And when when it happened, like I'd also, I've been racing for a long time and unfortunately been dealing with back problems, which that affected the mental side a lot more than the break. And I think in some ways the break was almost a weird relief, if I'm honest. Like it was a no pressure. Like I was then going to the games and there was no pressure to perform.
I see.
And it just made it an actual really fun time. It was the funnest race I've ever done. Like I didn't do amazing, but I had so much fun. Like the crowd was incredible and the climbs were not as fun after not really riding for 7 weeks. And I'd only been mountain biking 3 times before I was on the course. We did 1 day of training and I actually crashed and landed on that collarbone. It was hilarious.
No better way to test it.
That was one of the GB guys, and I was like, dude, look at this sick gap I found. And just like hooked up a pedal on a rock and went flying over the bars behind me. But it was an immediate, my collarbone was on 100% after that. So the race was awesome, just going on the downhills. Like I was throwing, at that time I wasn't too skillful, but like throwing one hands and just like cheering for the crowd. And I was going up one of the hills, and there was a bunch of New Zealand guys who were like wheelie. And again, there was no pressure, so I just popped a wheelie and I was going up the climb and everyone was cheering. It was such an awesome experience.
That's fantastic. It sounds like such great times looking back on that. And so interesting for me as well, hearing how that injury and that setback shifted your whole perspective for the race.
There was so much pressure with those games, like I said, and the back problems had been an issue for a real issue for 2 years. And I've been working really hard to kind of sort that, but the games were unfortunately the end of my cross country racing. I saw team doctors there and stuff who figured out the muscle imbalances that I had created from riding from such a young age and doing gym work and stuff, that it was basically I had to quit riding or just be in constant pain for basically ever. And I still unfortunately do suffer with some back problems, but they're nowhere near as bad as they used to be.
Yeah, it's a horrible ultimatum to be given as someone that had built their life around cycling.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that a lot of your happiness at the time came from being able to get out there and ride your bike.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, it still is, and I think it always has and probably always will be. Honestly, from a mindset point, it wasn't fantastic. The beauty thing with cycling, though, is it didn't end. Just because, it was actually pedaling that was the issue. So I wasn't able to really race anymore. However, I could still go riding. It wasn't the end of the world. So I just got on my dirt jumper and started playing around, really. I was a bit over the pedaling somewhat.
I think a lot of people listening are going to be saying, yes, pedaling's bad, don't do that.
No, pedaling's fantastic. But yeah, it was a tough time. But again, cycling is awesome in that just because you can't do one thing, there's so many other ways that you can do, and reverse way as well, like doing jumping and all the gnarly stuff. Now, if that ever stops, like last year breaking my kneecap, I was able to ride just super chill stuff. And for me, even just being on a bike, it makes me happy. So being able to ride around town is honestly enough. As long as I'm on a bike, it makes me happy. It doesn't have to be gnarly.
We are lucky as it's such a broad sport, isn't it? It's not like, swimming where you can't swim. You can't swim.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can't ride this bike. Which other bike could I ride?
Yeah.
I love that. And, how did you find that shift from, being a competitive rider solely focused on training and competing, moving towards, being a rider that's just out there to have fun and riding whichever bike you can at the time? How did you find that experience?
It was difficult, honestly, because my whole life and my whole ideal life was racing mountain biking. To take the racing side away was difficult at first, and like I said, all the messing about definitely helped my mental state. However, there always was that bit in the back of my mind, and it took me 2 years, honestly, to kind of get over it. I was always like, no, I'm going to get back to racing. I'm going to get back to racing. And it was only until I started really, and I guess doing gnarlier stuff and realizing that I wasn't too bad at going downhill that the mindset kind of switched from, you know what, I'm actually all right just riding and having fun. But it was all, I think it was also a realization that being a professional mountain bike, which was all my mountain biker was, oh my gosh, being a professional mountain biker was always my goal, and realizing that you don't have to race bikes to be a professional mountain biker was a huge switch.
That's the fantastic thing, isn't it, about our sport evolving, getting bigger?
Yeah.
Is there's so many more ways that you can fit into this community and into this industry.
Yeah.
Without having to be a top performing racer on the podium
Yeah.
at every stage. Man, I love it. It's so cool hearing about how some of these, potentially moments that you may have viewed as like a negative event in your life have then spurred this, amazing period of growth and all of these new wonderful things. So yeah, for anyone out there experiencing a setback or, maybe even like, the death of a personality, like I can't race anymore, I can't do this thing that I built my whole life on, like there's good stuff on the other side of that if you keep seeking, just having fun.
It is definitely, you have to keep on trying. there was definitely months and months and months in between all of that where it didn't feel like anything was happening, but it does pay off if you just keep on doing it, for sure.
Keep on riding your bike.
Yeah.
I love it, man. So it sounds like that initial trip to Squamish to do some training, have some fun before the Commonwealth Games, was that the inspiration to move to BC full time?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even need to get to Squamish, and I already wanted to move here. Like even just driving down the Sea to Sky Highway, I was just blown away.
Yeah,
and like I said, I didn't really do much research on Squamish before I came out here. I just knew it was near Whistler. I was like, I'm going to get a bike park pass and I'm going to ride up in Whistler like as much as I possibly can. I got a Whistler pass, started riding Squamish and used it 3 times.
There you go.
The riding in Squamish is, to me, it's just amazing. And even like going out for my first ride, being like, wait a minute, I recognise that feature and I recognise this and that, and being like, all of these films I thought were filmed in Whistler, half of them are actually in Squamish.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, just how much there is to ride. It blew my mind as well. I know, coming from Australia, similar story. Didn't really do any research.
Yeah.
People ask me why I moved. I'm like, bikes.
Yeah.
That's it. But there's just so much to ride. I struggle every summer to ride everything that I've dreamt up over that winter.
Yeah, it's so difficult living there. Like I find it hard to just leave Squamish. I'm like, why would I go and drive 45 minutes up to Whistler when I can go and ride like the 400 kilometers trail or whatever that we have, and you can mix it up every single time.
Man, it's such a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's real tough living there.
So let's talk about your riding now. You've kind of transitioned from riding XC, training lots, competing, to riding some pretty gnarly slab lines, jumps, things like this in Squamish.
Yeah.
What's a perfect ride look like for you now? What are you liking?
Honestly, a perfect ride is just a ride. I don't think I really have a perfect ride in my head. It's just being able to go out on my bike and ride my bike is a perfect ride. It can be a beer run on my cruiser and it's still the best thing.
Yeah.
Whereas equally, I can go out there and ride some of the gnarliest things and the enjoyment is still the same. There's definitely a bit more of an excitement factor when it gets gnarly. But I don't think I really have a perfect ride.
Great answer, man. One of the best I've had so far. I love it. So you're riding anything and everything. I know a lot of the stuff we see up on your YouTube channel, which if people haven't seen, I'll definitely put the tag to down in the show notes. A lot of the stuff we're seeing there is really steep, classic Squamish granite slabs, routes, jumps, things like this. When you're out there riding something that is maybe a little bit scary, I've got to ask, do you have any mental tools and techniques that you're consciously using?
So, not specifically. However, my mindset for riding is don't ride it unless you're 100%. So everything that I do ride, I've ridden away from features more times than I've ridden things, and I I'm more than happy to go to a feature that I've ridden 100 times, and if I'm not feeling that day, I will not ride it. I never push myself. So say there is a feature that does scare the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Like, I will go there, I will look at it, I will figure it out, I'll know exactly how to ride it. I won't ride it, I'll go away and I'll ride things that I think are similar, or whether it's like, say it's a drop, I'll go and find a drop that's a bit smaller. I'll go and practice doing it really slow and then doing it really fast, and like trying to make something else that I'm really comfortable on as similar to the feature I'm scared about. So when I then go back to that feature, I can look at it, and rather than being like, oh, I'm not 100% sure, I go, oh, no, this is chill. Like, I know I can do this because I've done this and I've done that. And the tools are definitely a lot further down the line than just looking at something and telling myself something. But yeah, I only ride things unless if I'm 100% confident that I can do it.
Man, that's a fantastic process, and I think it's probably, you know, it must have played a part in the fact that you haven't had a terrible amount of injuries, and you're still able to ride, you know, at such a high level. There, it's yeah. I really love that whole process of going back, building up confidence on something that you already know you can ride, playing around with it, changing things up, and then going back to the scary feature. With you know, this kind of newfound sense of self-belief. Like, I can do this because I did that. Yeah,
like it's, and even then, like it's going to a feature, and rather than looking at it and being scary, you're not scared of it. I think that's the mindset that I like to have, and it's what I like other people to have. If I'm riding with somebody and they're questioning something, I'm like, should you really be doing it? No. Like, you can progress in a very nice way and not hurt yourself. Yeah. Like, I have had a hell of a lot of crashes, but the most of those crashes have been in a parking lot where I'm doing cornering or whatever. Yep. And it's just like, I mean, that's another thing, is learning to crash. Yep. Like, actually going out and purposely learning to crash. Like, I spent one winter just doing 360s out of flyouts and kind of purposely under rotating and doing opposite ones and stuff, and just learning how to like fall backwards. And how do you fall? Well, with gravity. I mean, people throw around all kinds of things. You tuck it or roll it. What's your? It's different every time. Yeah. And I think that's the importance of trying to learn to crash in so many different ways, and that's why, to me, a 360 is a perfect way. Because you can slide wheels out and you can catch yourself with your feet and your hands. But if something really flips you around and you're going backwards, it's really difficult to save yourself. But if you've at least, like, it's never going to be perfect, but at least if you've kind of practiced it a little bit, you'll have some of those body motions to protect you. And I've been lucky so far, and I've definitely had circumstances where I would have hurt myself if I hadn't. Yeah, interesting. And do you think there's kind of like a progression there, or a right time in a mountain biker's progression to start playing around and quote unquote learn to crash? You need to learn the basics first before you start doing that. But I think, to me, learning to make the mistake is always a better thing to do first than actually learn the skill. So if, like, manuals, for example, I think one of the best ways to learn a manual is brakeless. It's really difficult, but I spent years and years and years of my life trying to manual with a brake, and the brake was a hindrance for me. Like, I learned how to do it holding the brake. So it was like, sweet, other than the fact you're slowing yourself down constantly. So for now, if I'm ever trying to teach someone how to manual, it's either take the brake off or don't touch the brakes. And the first thing you do is learn to jump off the back. If you know how to jump off the back, you're not scared to commit 100% to it. Interesting. So it gives that rider more confidence to be able to get to that point. Because for a manual example, the balance point is not far off where you need to jump away. Totally, because it's really scary getting to there. But yeah, if you know how to jump off, you're not going to be too scared to get there. Man, it totally makes sense in my head. Thinking about, for myself personally, trying to manual without brakes on my bike sets off alarm bells in my head, but it totally makes sense to me. And I might have to try this on our ride afterwards. Yeah. Flat pedals first. I love what you're saying there. It sounds to me, you know, a lot of your process, whether you're trying to manual or you're trying to ride a new slab, is taking away as many of the unknowns as possible. Yeah.
so that you don't have that that level of kind of doubt in your head. What if this happens? What if I go past the balance point? It's like, oh, I just jump off like I practiced 100 times.
Yeah, being confident to make the mistake is good. And I mean, also when you're doing some of the gnarlier things, knowing that you can kind of make a mistake and get away with it is confidence inspiring, and also allows you to be able to rise to those things.
Yeah, both, mentally and physically. Like if I lose focus, how can I refocus?
Yeah.
Maybe physically or technically, if I do start to lock up my brakes going down this slab, how can I regain traction, or where's my next island of safety?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the front wheel sliding down slabs is one of the things I have practiced the absolute most. Like, I remember for when I first came to Squamish, the rolls are so steep. Totally. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And not having the right body position, like people who ride normal rock around, it's a lot slipperier, so you don't really have the traction that you have on the slabs. So everyone, and myself, when I first came, you ride right off the back, the butt over the rear wheel, and you're just hoping for the best, but you don't realize that you can lean so hard into that front wheel and almost be leaning over and actually have the most unbelievable grip you've ever had.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's terrain that I've not found anywhere else in the world, right?
No.
It's so unique, and to the point where there's people like yourself nose manualing down slabs that are steeper than a 45-degree angle. It's just insane, but such a cool learning process to hear about you going out and actually practicing skidding the front wheel.
Yeah.
So that if it happens, you know how to deal with that in a critical moment.
Yeah.
And I know, same for you, coaching a lot of riders, the biggest thing we see is people leaning right off the back, using all back brake, not wanting to touch their front in case they go over the handlebars. Yeah. So how do you practice, or how do you set someone up in an area to practice that safely?
So for sliding the front wheel, and also pretty much all skills that I like, so cornering and bunny hop and everything, I think a gravel parking lot is the best place. Always flat pedals too. When somebody's learning, clips are a hindrance.
It's a great one. Yeah, for everyone listening, I know that's another question I get almost every week out there coaching. Yeah. What's better, flats or clips? The answer is neither. Yeah. But some things are better for certain stages in your progression or certain styles of riding. So
I think for all learning, flats is the best way, because you do have to use the correct technique. And myself included, being a cross-country racer from a young age, like I learned how to do everything with clips. So when I bunny hopped, I did the classic just pull front and rear up.
Totally. How did you find that transition, putting flats on your bike again? And
I did the transition by getting a dirt jumper. Okay. Yep. So and this has stayed true to today, where my mountain bikes have clips on them, unless I'm doing something specific where I want flats on, or I'm going to go and practice something. But my dirt jumper is the tool for learning everything. So flat pedals on there, learn everything on the dirt jumper, and then take it to the trails with the big bike.
So like minimum technology, maximum technique.
Yeah.
And then you take those skills back to the Norco range with 180 mil of travel, and it's like you've got the best of both worlds. Yeah. Fantastic, man. I love that philosophy. I wanted to ask, for yourself, you're obviously pushing your limits, exploring, doing new things all the time on a mountain bike. How do you go about setting yourself goals that are achievable, fun and challenging, yet not so far out of your wheelhouse that it stresses you and it's too hard?
Yeah, and I don't like stress personally. Weirdly, yeah. So I don't really specifically set myself goals that are either achievable or unachievable. Like, there are things I want to ride, but like I said before, I'm not going to ride them unless I'm 100% confident. So, I used the Garanga drop for an example. I still haven't ridden that. I really want to. I think I have the skill to be able to do it. But I just haven't been there, looked at it and gone, yeah, I'm 100%. I could probably go there and throw myself off it and be fine. Yeah. But I haven't been there and looked at it and be like, yeah, I'm 100%. And it goes for all of the gnarly things that I'm looking at and things I have planned in the future. To me, nothing is crazy out of the stretch. Like, I've never looked at something and been like, wow, one day I'm going to do that ridiculous looking slab. It's kind of just going to the top of something and figuring it out and being like, yeah, does it work? Does it not work? And then, one day you look at it and you go, oh, can totally 100% do this. And that's kind of how I've got to riding what I am now.
Yeah. So listening to that intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, man. I think it takes, 100% more courage to walk away from something. The example there of the Garanga drop, like you're saying, yeah, I think I could do this. I could do this. You've probably got people telling you, oh, dude, you've totally got that. You should just do it.
Yeah.
But if you're not feeling it, it takes so much more courage to say, like, I'm just not going to do it because I don't feel like doing it. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it should be okay. And it's something I have seen in mountain biking. I think I almost see more and more is people go like having something in their mind that like, I want to do this or I'm going to do this. And yeah, going there and running in 7 times, looking at it, getting off the bike, moving a rock, moving a stick, like just being like, this is my goal. I need to do this versus like, yeah, I want to do it, but I'm okay not doing it. Like,
it raises the question, isn't it? It's like, well, why do you want to do this?
Yeah. And
is it because you think you should have to do it or you should be able to do it, or is it because you actually think it's going to be fun and you feel like doing it today?
Yeah, I don't think social media has helped that, and I'm honestly probably part of the problem with that. Like people, I see things that other people ride, and I'm like, I want to go ride that. And really, I suppose that is somewhat how I've ended up where I am, because I've seen all these other people ride these insane slabs, and yeah, I want to know what it feels like. Like it looks amazing. But at the end of the day, it should be fun, and you should be doing it for yourself versus like, oh, this would look cool on my Instagram.
Yeah, I think it's an important kind of self-check to do on a regular basis, because I know, myself, how easy it is to kind of tread that line and go from writing to yourself to all of a sudden operating from the ego, and it only takes a split second to let the ego take over and drop into something you're not 100%.
Yeah.
To kind of, turn a good day into a bad day and potentially, set you back even longer. So I love that philosophy, man. And I want you to dig in a little more. You talked about kind of standing at the top of something, having a look, seeing if it works. Are you visualizing yourself in kind of a third person riding the line, or what are you doing there?
I have anesthesia, so I struggle to visualize things.
Okay.
which is always fun. But it's to me, I don't really like third person look at things. When I look down something, I'm basically looking at braking points, I'm looking at compressions, I'm looking at where I want my tires to go. Also looking at, okay, if I make this mistake, what's going to be the outcome? Will I be able to go this way? Will I be able to go this way? What is in the way of a mistake? If there's multiple lines, like figuring out, okay, what's the easiest line? What's the hardest line? And just, trying to break it down kind of part by part versus like imagining it. And just, again, it goes back to my like riding things that are similar. So once I've looked at something that I'm a little bit unsure on, I'll go and find something that is similar and just practice that one thing. So when I go back to that same feature and look at it again, like it might take me 15 goes going to a feature before I look at it and go, oh, okay, I'm 100% now.
Yep.
But being able to go away, practice all those things and come back and go 100%, I think it's just, it's a cool feeling. And the breakdown is kind of fun, honestly.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like a really objective view. Where am I going to brake? Where's my, my zones of safety? Where do I have to let the bike run a little bit? Yeah. I love it. And I think it's really important, like you're saying there, to be okay with going away, practicing and coming back. Like I often say to people, like, that rock's always going to be there. You don't have to ride it today.
Yeah. The slabs aren't going anywhere.
Exactly. Like, sure, it might be good conditions today, but, there's going to be more good days. So no, I love that. And I think, hearing your perspective there, it's a little bit different to mine. I'm definitely big on visualizing myself riding the line. I'm thinking about all the same things, but I find sometimes I'll get caught in this trap of like all of a sudden visualizing myself doing the wrong thing, or like visualizing what could go wrong and then going too far down that track and almost like rehearsing that in my mind rather than rehearsing what could go right. So that's something, I consciously work on snapping my mind out of.
And I think there is, I've looked at multiple features where it's like, wow, that tree would not be great to hit. But it's like, how are you going to not hit that tree? Like, if there is something that's in the way, again, like, okay, even if I make this mistake, knowing that you're going to be able to like pull yourself away from it or like looking at that specific point of kind of no return.
So not being blind to the hazards and just ignoring them, but saying, okay, like, yes, there's a tree there.
Yeah.
If I ride this, how am I going to deal with it?
Yeah.
Not, okay, there's a tree there. Holy shit, that tree's going to grab my front wheel. I'm going to go over the handlebars and snap my wrist.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there are obstacles everywhere constantly. Like you have to be, not looking at the things that you don't want to hit, but you need to know that they're there and have the mindset of kind of just looking around them, but knowing like sometimes there's a tree that's really close, but sometimes you want to use that tree because it's so close. You can use it as a kind of a bouncing point off the roots to move out the way or whatever, like knowing how to, sometimes you use that obstacle.
Yeah, almost like shifting that obstacle to your advantage.
Yeah.
How can I use that tree that's really close to the side of the trail? I love that. Yeah, that's a great way. Now, this is a question every mountain biker wants to hear you answer. I'd love to hear you explain your relationship with fear and riding mountain bikes. I know it differs slightly for each person I talk to.
Yeah, so, I mean, fears, like everybody has fears. I myself have fears, and like I'm scared of heights and stuff.
This is like we were talking about beforehand. And it's super interesting considering the height of some of the stuff and the angle that you're riding down.
Yeah,
let's talk about that.
Again, it all comes back to that same thing of being 100% confident. Like if I have these fears, but if I'm 100% confident, they kind of start to go away, and I almost don't allow myself to get those fears, I suppose. If I go to something and I start getting the butterflies, like it's just not going to happen. I'm not gonna do it. And I don't like the feeling of like adrenaline and all of that. Like I just do it for the satisfaction and the feeling of it in the moment. So like if I start getting crazy adrenaline rushes, I'm like, no, this is not happening today.
You're not the first person that said that to me, and I know for someone who, if there's anyone listening that's not a mountain biker, it probably sounds insane that like this guy that's riding down some of the craziest slabs in the sea of the sky doesn't like adrenaline.
Yeah.
You mountain bikers adrenaline junkies? What's going on?
It's like, no, I just love the feeling of it. Like, the tires on the dirt and the compressions, and like when something goes so smooth and it just feels amazing. Yeah, I don't really like bungee jumping. I don't like doing all of these like adrenaline filled things. Like to me, it just feels like crazy anxiety, and I kind of avoid it.
Yeah, I can relate on some level there, dude. I know I've made a million excuses over the years to never bungee jump. Yeah. It's like I've always failed, I still haven't. But I'm really happy to ride it.
I unfortunately got bullied into doing it once.
Okay.
And it was, one of the scariest moments of my life. I did the Whistler bungee jump, and I got up there and I was like, oh my God, I don't think I'm actually going to be able to do this. So when I got strapped in, I was like, right, if I don't look down, I'm not going to know what I'm looking at. So I just stared out at Black Tusk, and they're like, oh yeah, put your feet on the edge. And I walked out to the edge, and he's like, okay, on 3, you're gonna jump. And I just slowly leant forwards, and to the point I actually fell. Yeah, and then I looked down and I started screaming.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a nice situation to be in, honestly. I think mountain biking is far more friendly, especially when you're out there with a good crew that you trust and that respects you and your decisions on that day. It's such a better vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So bungee jumping aside, I wanted to ask you, what's a new skill you've learned on the bike lately?
I mean, everything's progressing. Like I try to move everything on kind of as equally and slowly as it takes. I think that the biggest thing in the last 2 years has been, my braking control has allowed me to be able to do the things that I am doing. I think the weight shift as well. So rather than riding in that kind of general middle position, riding to a very forward position on the bike, weighting that front wheel. Like riding that Norco range, that's like as soon as I jumped onto that's where the shift started happening, because that thing has so much traction.
Totally.
Like, it's insane. The high pivot is unbelievable. And and it wants you to ride forward. Like that rear wheel just grips and tracks. And I run dual as guys on the bike, so I want max traction. But the more weight you put over the front wheel, the more grip you have for everything, cornering and braking. So the further forward you go, that then in hand allows you to brake harder, and then the braking controls got better. I think one of the more interesting things that I've learned over the last little bit is to ride ambidextrously. So I ride like I am a left-footed rider or left-foot forward rider, but I've taught myself to ride with both feet forwards.
Fantastic.
So for cornering and for off-camber sections, being able to swap the feet and get into that maximum kind of like open cornering position, and being able to weight the wheels exactly how I want to. So if I'm going down an off-camber section, like turning right, I'll swap my feet over so that my right foot's forward, so I can put all of my weight into my back left, which weights the outside, and then also weighting that front handlebar with the left too.
Interesting.
It does grip more. Like I'm not 100% with it yet.
Yep.
It's definitely taking its time. But like when I first started, I literally went to a pump track, and it was basically like learning how to ride a bike again. Like going around the pump track with your wrong foot forward. It was like, it was wild. Like just try, like my upper body knew what to do, but my lower body was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, man. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's something, I play around with a little bit as well. I definitely haven't mastered it yet either. But definitely when I'm just out for chill rides, or I'm riding, with my girlfriend or something like that, playing around with putting the opposite foot forward, it's such a weird feeling at first. It is
so weird.
But it's so helpful as well, like you're saying, cornering and stuff like this, and even just like riding some techie trails here in BC. Yeah. Sometimes you end up in a situation where you've gone past the point of no return, you're about to drop into a slab, and the wrong foot's forward. It can be disastrous if you're not comfortable with that. So I'm guessing that you use that same philosophy of growth of going away, practicing on some really easy stuff, taking it back to the hard stuff.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
That's fantastic. And, while you're out there riding, maybe if you're ever having a tough day or a tough moment or something like that, I'm curious, do you have any mottos or anything you're kind of saying to yourself out there?
I have the off day every so often. Like sometimes I go out and I'm like, wow, I for some reason can't brake today, or I can't corner. But it's just going back to like, I don't know, just look around you. Like, what are you doing? You're in Squamish. You've got the Chief over there, the beautiful mountains. Like, regardless of having a bad day on the bike, it's still a good day in Squamish.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, so bringing yourself back to the present and saying, grateful to be here regardless.
Yeah. Like, I think mountain biking should be fun regardless. If you're having a bad time, just try and look at the fun part in it. Like if I'm having a useless day cornering, I'll probably just go do some jumps. For some reason the jumps feel good today versus something else. Like just finding what you actually enjoy in that moment and just sticking to that so you are happy.
Dude, it's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, not forgetting the whole reason we're out there in the first place. I think all of us, anyone that mountain bikes or rides a bike, is to have fun.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun.
Well, how can I change this day around so that I can have fun today?
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the work you do with other riders as a coach in a second. Before we do that, I'm curious, obviously you've probably had a few mentors over the years. Is there any one bit of advice or one thing that a mentor gave to you that comes to mind?
I've had some awesome coaches over the years. I don't think there's anything specifically that anyone said that has kind of stuck with me, but just the support throughout the years, like speaking to coaches and speaking to other racers and stuff, and just everyone actually being stoked for everybody. Like if you're out on a bad day, like actually bringing people up versus being like, oh, whatever. I think just the positivity is the most important thing. And out of all the people I've coached with, if that coach is a positive coach, thanks Rick Jameson. It just works versus somebody that's not so whatever.
Totally, man. Yeah. Big believer in a positive mindset.
Yeah.
That's huge. So tell us a little bit about your work. I know you and I were chatting a little bit beforehand about what you're up to, kind of living the dream in the mountain bike world, you could say. Yeah, what's your day-to-day kind of look like?
Yeah, so until a few months ago, last year, it was my first year of actually being a coach, which, like I said before, being a professional mountain biker has always been my dream. That mindset of being a racer has changed, and now it's just as long as I can ride my bike for a living, I am happy. So I did move here in 2019 for coaching and guiding. It's always been my dream to guide in Squamish. More so guiding than coaching, honestly, for now. I really want to get into coaching, but I see that as kind of a later life thing. But I still really enjoy coaching, and honestly, the guiding turns into coaching. But moved here, and then COVID happened.
Right.
so I didn't get to actually start guiding for 2 years. So I just worked in bike shops, and I was working for like a rental company, which was really fun.
Okay.
And then last year was my first year of actual being a professional mountain biker, I guess.
Man, that must have been such a good feeling after, what became a bit of a long road with COVID there, and realizing your goal of becoming a guide.
Between the games ending and then coming out in COVID, it was like, finally it's happening. So last summer was the first year, and absolutely loved it. Yeah, just going out biking every day, and off days was biking as well. Doing coaching and guiding. Unfortunately, mid through last season, whilst I was coaching, I had an unfortunate crash and broke my kneecap. Always wear knee pads.
Yeah.
It was such a silly mistake. Because every time I go riding, I wear a full face chest protector, knee pads, gloves, everything. Because anything can happen at any time. Normally crash on the uphills, but when I went out coaching this one day, or whenever I go out coaching last year, I was kind of in the mindset of like, you're riding as chill as possible, you're just focusing on the rider. Like, it's aggressive if you're coaching in a full face helmet too.
Totally.
So I would go out with a half shell, gloves, and nothing else. And this one particular day, so like I was saying, I ride clips. Well, I had to borrow an e-bike that day. Haven't really ridden e-bikes very much at all, and it had flat pedals on it. So I coach this gentleman down the first slab on Rupert's. For if anyone knows, that first long slab at the kind of towards the end of it, there's one steep roll. I was coaching him through there, explained it all. He rode it perfectly. I then went back up, jumped on the e-bike, went to go meet him down at the bottom, and just before the roll, somehow, this is not the bike's fault, it's my fault, but whatever. Both my feet slipped off the pedals. And as the front wheel just started to go down, so my feet slip off, I land on the saddle and seat bounce as the front wheel was going down. So the bike's just leaving me. I'm going up, and it was a horrible, like, completely unweighted feeling of whatever. So I tried to do the old cross-country handlebars through the legs and jump out onto your feet, but the e-bike weighed 60 pounds or whatever. So I tried, but couldn't push the bike underneath me. So then I had to straighten the bars out, but I've now got my left hand and both my feet off the pedals spread eagle. So I landed and just knife jacked and hit my knee. And after coaching him down the rest of Rupert's and then Pamplemousse and then riding from the bottom of the trails all the way back up to Quest, and then riding from Quest all the way to the brewery was when I went and got it checked out, unfortunately. So ended up working in a bike shop, and then when the bike shop ended, I had a little bit of money saved up, and kind of started the journey to where I am now, which is trying to get sponsors and trying to get funding to kind of be able to do this social media thing more and more. Like a day in the life now, kind of, wake up, make my Instagram post, have a coffee, normally go for a ride, where still waiting for the season to kind of kick off for the coaching, really. And the guiding, but hopefully next month that will start up, and I'll be doing that pretty much every day. And then, yeah, just making Instagram clips, I guess.
Man, it's fantastic. What a journey.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for telling us about your crash there. Like,
Yeah, so
sorry
I
you
just
had to
started
experience
randomly
that, man.
going
Like,
into that.
like, yeah, I can relate there. I've had some really silly crashes being out coaching too, and oftentimes on a bike that's not mine. Maybe the brakes around the wrong way, the Canadian way.
Yeah.
No,
I mind the same way as you.
But again, yeah, you can't blame the equipment, but it's definitely not a nice feeling whether you're coaching or not, just crashing on something that we're so sure of. So I think it was a really important point I wanted to highlight there. You said always wear your knee pads.
Yeah,
and,
always wear knee pads.
Shout out to Gordy from Endless Biking there. If he's listening, I know he had a really similar crash last season, going out to pre-ride something for a lesson the next day, not wearing knee pads because it was easy for him. And same kind of thing, it led to the rest of the season off the bike and, a whole lot of nasty rehab there. So,
It's always when it happens when you're not.
Exactly. Like anyone that's been mountain biking long enough knows that sometimes we crash on easy stuff.
Yeah, the car
sometimes
park
there's no
is
explaining
the
it.
most dangerous place.
Exactly. So, I think, wearing that protective equipment is a good way to keep your ride going all season.
Yeah.
Fantastic, dude. Love that transition from, going from, working in bike shops, coaching, guiding, and now, put in, lots of time and lots of energy into creating some really good online content there as well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your YouTube channel. What's that all about?
Yeah, so the YouTube channel is definitely something I'm starting this year, really. I kind of played around last year with some videos. Like I posted race runs from the enduro that we did.
That was the Squamish enduro last year.
Yeah,
fantastic
so
race.
And just like some practice kind of stuff. But to make this journey a viable journey, I think YouTube is really the way to try and make money. Because there's no creator fund here for athletes. So like from my Instagram clips and stuff, like I haven't made a cent. So the YouTube is, and the monetization is definitely the way to go. So basically it's why I'm going there. But when I first moved here, as part of me wanting to be a guide, I want to try and document every trail in Squamish and do like a trail preview on it. So that's basically where the YouTube channel is gonna go. Anything extra that I do, so if there is some gnarly slab that I want to go and do, I'm gonna try and document the process of probably doing it, maybe not the 15 times going there and walking away, but maybe like the first time I'm looking at something and then be like, I came back this many times and trying to do that. But the main goal is trail previews. I think I'm just going to do it POV versus like doing third person, but when there's multiple lines, like just preview every single multiple line and hopefully bring the trails of Squamish to everybody, and people will be able to look at the previews and decide whether that trail is for them or not. And then working as a guide, people can go on to the YouTube channel and be like, I saw this trail and that trail, and they'll be able to kind of pick and choose what they want to ride, kind of. And if I can connect those all together, then we'll go and have a sweet ride.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, it's definitely inspiring, and I think we live in such a cool time where we can look up a trail before we ride it. We get a sense of what's going to be going on. I know for me, it really helps with the mentality as well. Yeah. Taking away some of those unknowns. If a buddy wants to go and ride a trail and I'm like, this one's up in Whistler, I haven't been there very much. Yeah. Like, what's that all about? Usually I can find it on YouTube and I'm like, okay, it's got slabs, it's got rocks, it's got roots. I ride that stuff all the time. Cool, let's go.
Yeah. No, it is cool. Personally, I honestly don't watch trail previews.
Okay, interesting.
I kind of just go out and ride, and I just love the exploration of it. Like the first 3 years I was in Squamish, I didn't look at trail forks, didn't do anything. I knew the climbing trail, and I knew if I went down, I'd end up somewhere. So like the first few years, like I was literally just exploring. I'm not amazing at knowing the trail names. I've ridden pretty much everything, but I've just gone to it and found it and ridden it versus like looking it up. I think there's still so much fun in being able to just go out on a bike and explore. I think there is some part of it, of the watching trail views, that takes it a little bit away from riding, but it is also a really valuable tool.
Yeah, man, totally. I agree with both sides of that, and I totally do a little bit of both myself there. I wanted to talk there. You're obviously so good at going out and embracing challenges on the bike. just this year and maybe even the last couple of years, I know you're putting a lot of your energy into embracing the challenge of trying to make this passion a full-time gig for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, big ups to you for doing that, man. I know,
thanks.
you know, the struggle of going out and putting yourself out there constantly.
Yeah.
And even, you know, some of that second guessing and self-doubt we all get can sometimes be harder than writing the gnarliest stride line.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think the writing part for me is definitely the easiest. I think coming up with a caption for every video is normally the scariest part of it.
Totally. Yeah, the social media is definitely a dark place sometimes, or a, you know, intimidating place to find yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you definitely just have to take it for the lightheartedness that you possibly can, as lightheartedly as you can. Like it's not real. Like these people aren't saying it to your face. They're just typing online. Anyone can type anything online. And yeah, like, I mean, the amount of comments that I get on my own videos, just ridiculous comments. And
it's like I find amazing. I'm like, how does someone riding mountain bikes, having fun, get like online haters? How sort of thing?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like I've had accounts where that person has commented on every single video something negative. And to me, I kind of find it funny. Yeah. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. I laugh every single time someone sends me one of these messages or comments on a video. Like I totally get it. Like to me, I watch some extreme videos out there, things that I personally don't understand. Like the people that jump on skyscrapers and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I totally get it. Yeah, if you don't understand the sport, like it does look crazy to people. But yeah, like the comments, like people are like, oh, what hospital is he in? Can I go check him? like, wow, do you really want to die? Like, what do your parents think of it? The comments are
it's hilarious,
insane. And it's a lot too. Like there is a lot of comments like that. But it's funny.
Yeah, I think you've got to, like you say, look at the humorous side of it. Like, you know, what's making someone feel called to spend time writing, you know, like hateful or negative comments? Like, what's going on for them to feel, you know, badly enough to have to write this stuff to other people?
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, everyone has an opinion. Everyone has something to say. It's just, it's all ridiculous.
Yeah,
so it's not real.
No, you're right, and I think, you know, sometimes it's harder being the person that's uploading the content and writing the stuff. We'll often put more thought into the comment that someone else has wrote than the person who actually just really quickly wrote something they thought was funny.
Yeah, like
send it off. Yeah.
It's so easy to just write something horrible on someone's page with it. They're not going to say that to your face, and the amount of positivity too is really awesome. Like I'm lucky to have wicked friends, and even my followers. Like there's some awesome people out there that I talk to, and they're always commenting on my videos. And yeah, it's a really nice kind of community that seems to be growing around whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, man, it's fantastic. Just the mountain bike community as a whole that has now also grown online to be, like you say, overwhelmingly positive. Yeah. For sure, we're always going to have a few keyboard warriors, but that's fine, whatever. Overwhelmingly, it's such a great community.
Yeah.
I'm sure something you've had commented on about something that sparked my curiosity. It was the rubber ducky on the handlebars. Tell me about that one.
Yeah, Mr. Quacky Chan, a legend. The duck thing's been going for a long time. I think my mum bought me a huge rubber duck for one of my birthdays when I was like 13 or 14 or something, and I was like, this thing's sweet. And then it just became a thing where like every birthday I'd get like ducks, and Christmas I get ducks, like a Shakespeare duck, like a Rasta duck, and like all these ridiculous ducks up on my mantelpiece. And then like it was being at school at that age, 13 or something, that was when I also like made my first ever email. So my first email, and I still do have the account, is Mr. Ducky. I won't give the full email because people will start emailing me. But I've always had that email. And then it was through COVID, and like things weren't going amazingly that all of a sudden one day I had a squeaky duck come in the mail for my handlebars. And my mum denied sending it, but it was my mum.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So yeah, just put it on my handlebars, and it started as a complete joke, kind of like the mustache. These things just seem to stick. But I put on my handlebars, like fully just like, it's a little buddy running along, like it squeaks. I really enjoy doing it, squeaking the duck when there's dogs around, because obviously they immediately like, oh, what's that? Come running over. I haven't successfully stolen a trail dog yet, but it's on the cards. One day I'm gonna get a dog.
Dog walkers in Squamish. Yeah. Be careful.
It's hilarious. I'll ride past someone there and they're like calling their dog to them, and I'll just squeak the duck and it will come immediately over, like, here you go. Got him.
Wow, that's hilarious.
It's awesome. And yeah, so it started out as a joke, and the first video I posted, I had random people that I'd never seen following me start commenting on it, like, that's hilarious, that's funny. And I was like, oh, like, it's really hard to stand out in the mountain bike industry. Like, everyone's doing similar-ish things. And yeah, there wasn't anyone high up riding with a duck on their handlebars.
Totally.
So as ridiculous as the joke started, I was like, this is actually quite a good way to stand out.
Yeah.
And it's also just fun.
Totally.
Like, mountain biking is supposed to be fun. Anyone that ever comments on it, like, it's ridiculous, it's stupid, it's like, well, yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's fun.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just hilarious. And yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of brought its own identity to the riding of, I have lots of things planned for the duck, which I'll hopefully get around to doing one day. But yeah, it's just fun.
All right, can't wait to see what's in the future for the duck there. But if anyone hasn't seen it, check out Ollie's YouTube or Ollie's Instagram. I know, admittedly, same thing for me. First, I think when I started following you, I'm scrolling through reels and I'm like, who's this guy squeezing a rubber ducky mid gap jump, like in the air? It's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the duck's awesome.
It takes one-handers to a whole new level.
Yeah, it makes it so much more fun. My record is 6 taps.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how many.
It's got to be like a Whistler A-line or dirt merchant jump.
It was the step up at Kamloops.
Oh, there you go.
The big one. Yeah, quack. It's hilarious. Yeah, the favorite. If it jumps big enough, you can do a double duck tap to T-bog, which is my favorite. But so. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's so fun, like, going out onto the trails now, and like the kids will see it and they're like, squeak the duck. Like, even if they do or don't know me, or like, I'll be going for a ride and it's like, hey, it's the duck guy. And I'm like, oh gosh, but it's just fun.
Oh man, that's hilarious. I love it. It's always cool to see someone bring just some random new refreshing thing to the industry that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk here like a little bit more about your work as a coach and as a guide. Because it's always interesting, hearing different perspectives. So you're obviously out there, taking a lot of newer riders out, showing them different trails. If there's any common ground there, what's one of the biggest things that you see, or the biggest obstacles you see someone facing when they're out there in their first couple of seasons of mountain biking?
Yeah, I think the mental side of it, like, it's scary getting into mountain biking.
It's a hard thing.
It's not a particularly easy sport, and it's not like skiing where if you crash you're going to be like really fine. Like, it's easy to kind of hurt yourself. So I think people getting over the mindset of like, I'm going to crash is important. And I think people's incorrect technique. I think there's a huge thing in mountain biking where, like, a buddy will want to get into riding and their friends are like, here's a bike, let's go.
Totally.
And they go biking.
Yeah.
But like, to me, it's like putting someone in a manual car that's never driven a manual car, and you're like, hey, can you just drive over there? And it's like, yeah, they'll make it. It's not going to be pretty and it's not going to be fun, but they are going to make it.
Totally.
So for me, like, whether you go out with a coach or you go out with somebody that knows what they're doing, I think just going to a parking lot and actually practicing techniques and again, like, making mistakes. Like, one thing for people getting into sport, go and practice corners. Grab your brakes mid-corner, but purposely slide the front wheel. Do it on some gravel or somewhere that you're going to be able to catch yourself. And so that you can make that mistake, that if it ever happens on a trail, rather than crashing, you somewhat know how to fix that mistake. And it's, again, people's mentality of like, I'm going to crash is really daunting. And if that's what you constantly have in your mind, it's more likely to happen. Whereas, if you've gone out and you've learned how to do a bunny hop, you've learned how to do a little bit of cornering, you just have that there in your arsenal of tricks to be able to just keep your confidence going. And not progressing too fast, too. I think there's a lot of people and friends, Connor, calling you out.
Called out.
And it's like they see jumps and they're like, I want to do jumps. And it's like, how high can you bunny hop? Or like, how good is your manual? Or that. And they're like, oh, you can't do any of it. It's like, you probably shouldn't be starting to do jumps yet. Again, learning the little basics and then slowly being able, like, finding a step up and riding it slow, riding it faster, putting out points there that you're like, okay, I want to try and land with my front wheel on this and try and go faster, try and go slower and still hit that point. Like, you're going to have to pull up more. And just slowly actually learning the correct skills so that you don't kind of have the bad mindset and the bad skills that are going to hinder you.
Totally, man. So much wisdom in there we could unpack. I love that whole philosophy. It's fantastic. And it's so cool to hear from someone, a lot of the time with YouTube and Instagram these days, we see the gnarliest stuff you're doing. Yeah. We're not seeing the day where your knee's hurting and you're riding around town, maybe going to the brewery. We're seeing when you're riding down the steepest slabs and the biggest gap jumps. So it's so cool to hear that you're also following this same process. And, I like the term incremental progression. Yeah. But, progressing in little increments rather than maybe a more destructive progression where we're trying to progress really fast. Yeah. We're going from learning how to use our brakes for the first time to learning to do a gap jump. It's too fast. It's going to end with destruction. We're going to crash. We're going to have setbacks. It's going to be slower in the end than if we just take things slow, trust that process and really hone it. And I love what you're saying there again about, failing, but putting yourself in a situation where you can fail well. Yeah. So if you're learning to wash out not learning to wash out on the front wheel, learning what it feels like to wash out on the front wheel. Yeah. Do that in a gravel parking lot or in a super easy corner where maybe the worst thing that could possibly happen is you sprain your ankle. You're probably just going to put your foot down and not even fall off the bike. Yeah. So rather than having that happen on A-line when you're going 50 kilometers an hour. Yeah. It's definitely less ideal. No, parking lot is everybody's friend, and I don't think anyone should ever stop playing in a parking lot. Totally. I think one of the things I love most about mountain biking is it reminds me how to be a kid. It makes me feel like being a kid again. Yeah. Nothing makes me feel like a kid more than doing something goofy in a parking lot. Messing something up and maybe having a bit of a tumble in the parking lot. Yeah, and you know what? Like, making those mistakes and crashing rather than looking at it as like a bad thing, like, it is fun. You know what? Like, sliding your front wheel out and catching yourself with your foot. Like, maybe you're going to go down and you're going to scrape your elbow or whatever, but it's still fun. Like, you're just out there messing about, and it should always just be fun. Totally. Yeah, I think a lot of the time as an adult it becomes almost like this, I can't crash, crashing's bad. Often we're worried about all the our adult responsibilities, and for sure that's fine. But I do like to embrace some of that childhood mindset sometimes of like, I'm just out here riding a bike, like my goal's not to do well or do bad, I just ride. Yeah, and crashing on mountain bikes is definitely a lot more fun than road bikes. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's funny sometimes, rocks and roots and slabs and trees, there's so much more stuff to hit, but often, the injury or the consequence isn't as bad as just... Yeah, it's not often you crash on a road bike and you go, wow, that was fun. Pretty much, that never happens. Whereas on a mountain bike, it's the majority of the time. Like, you naturally aim for the bushes. Aim for the bushes. There we go. So we didn't get too much into how to crash before, but that's a good tip. Aim for the soft stuff if you are falling. I love it. So you've obviously been out riding with a whole bunch of different people throughout your life and your career. I'm curious, is there one thing or one kind of, I guess one thing that someone has taught you, one of your students has taught you, or during the process of teaching them you've learned about yourself? I think just the process of learning is always awesome. Like, the different ways that people learn things is always really interesting. I don't think I've definitely learned about the coaching process through people. I've definitely learned a lot about random things from awesome customers. I can totally relate. I think it's fantastic one to give someone else some knowledge and, give them a fun experience through some of the stuff you've learned over the years. But it also helps you learn more about that skill yourself or more about yourself as a rider.
Yeah, coaching and actually breaking things down, it doesn't just improve somebody else's riding, it definitely improves your own riding because you have to think about it. It's funny asking some really, really good mountain bikers, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And they're like, I just did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is something, me trying to be a coach is something I'm trying to kind of learn out of myself too, is actually rather than just doing something, be like, how exactly did that just happen and work? It's really interesting.
Yeah, it is, exactly. And it kind of leads us back around to, having a crash or an injury or a setback. I think often if we're just doing something, it always works well.
Yeah.
That's all we know.
Yeah.
And then it can be even harder sometimes if we maybe do have a crash or an injury or a setback.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we can't operate from that same place. And, it can be really self-defeating to be like, I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas, if we've learnt maybe the other way or breaking things down, we're like, okay, well, I understand where I am now. I'm back to the start of that process. I just have to climb that same ladder again.
Yeah.
And I can be back there, but I can see the path.
Yeah. Oh, and I think it is really important having that path because things will go wrong. Things always will go wrong.
Yeah, totally.
Mountain biking, it's pretty much impossible to always have things go right.
It's a part of life, and I think it is really important to plan for, okay, if the worst case scenario happens here, but don't end there. Don't end thinking about the worst case scenario. It's like, if the worst case scenario happens, how can I get back to where I am now?
Yeah.
Or how can I get back online? How can I bring myself back? That can often be, confidence inspiring rather than just thinking about, the route that's going to catch your front tire and whatever else. No, I love it, man. I know before, we're talking a lot about your YouTube and stuff, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but
no
I did want to give you the opportunity to mention, some of the partnerships you've built in the industry and some of the sponsors that are helping you make all this wonderful stuff happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really lucky to have the sponsors I've got. I genuinely never thought I'd get to where I am, and I still can't believe what's going on. But yeah, the first brand that I was speaking to was Anomaly, with the switch grade, and that the saddle adjuster. For anyone that doesn't know what an Anomaly switch grade is, it goes at the top of your seat post, so it works with a dropper. But you can angle your saddle forwards, so like tilt it down. You can have it flat, and you can also have it up. So thinking of it like a downhill setup when you're going downhill, so that it's tilted back. You got flat for doing flat ground, and then tilted forward for climbing. And for me, tilting that saddle forward was something that I'd always play with. So with cross country racing, if you're climbing uphill and you're racing uphill, you don't want your saddle to be in that flat position, because as soon as you start going uphill, it's actually tilted backwards, which is fine, but it's going to rotate your hips backwards. It's going to then put more strain into your back. You then can't put as much power down. You also can't sit into that rear wheel as hard, so you haven't got as much traction. So Anomaly contacted me, and the switch grade is amazing. Being able to actually tilt it forward just for pure comfort is fantastic, and the amount of grip you get on climbing too is awesome. It just saves your body. It is one of the things a lot of people don't really think it's necessary, and I've had lots and lots of comments about it being an unnecessary thing. But go for a ride up a hill and tilt your saddle a little bit forward and just see how it feels. Like once you do it once, you realize the benefit, and you're like, oh, I can't ride a bike now without one.
Really?
Like it just feels wrong not being able to have the perfect saddle position.
Wow.
And I use it more on my dropper post too. Like I will constantly be twitching it in between. And I didn't even realize that just cruising down the road at the end of the ride, if your saddle's flat, you're like being pushed forwards. Whereas if you tilt it backwards like a downhill bike, you're just cruising. It's awesome.
It's so cool to hear that first person's perspective, because I know like every mountain bike part, I see it all over my social media all the time, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But I haven't given it much more thought. I'm going to have to definitely try it on your bike when we go for a ride.
We go for a ride. Well, be careful, because they're really good.
Order one tonight. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and anyone that's had a go on one has bored pretty much.
No, really cool to hear, because I know, you've got back problems. I get a sore back sometimes when I'm
Yeah.
out, doing long days in the saddle. I'll often be riding like up a climbing trail with just my fingertips on the bars because
Yeah.
I'm trying to straighten my back out.
Yeah, it helps so much with that. I mean, actually, that's another funny thing. People look at my bike and they're like, wow, your stack height is crazy high. And it is crazy high.
Yeah.
I've got like 50 to 60 mil underneath the stem. I honestly can't remember.
Yeah, and then
I've got 50 mil riser bars on it too. Like it's so high. It's not for going downhill. It's actually for my back for climbing.
Wow, yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, Ollie was the first people that I got contacted with, and yeah, couldn't believe that. And then that same year, Norco reached out and they wanted to put a video on their Instagram, and that's kind of like how things started, and just got talking to them. And yeah, I can't believe I'm riding for Norco. Thank you so much, guys.
Huge congratulations.
It
just feels so rad to have support after years of, scrounging all of your spare change to buy bike parts and bikes yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that was really the necessity of working in a bike shop was to be able to afford my my addiction. And I've loved Norco bikes for years, and being able to not only be sponsored by a brand, but be sponsored by the brand that I really want to be sponsored by. I just feel so lucky. Noble Wheels, again, a really family-oriented kind of brand. Like everyone I've spoken to is really, really nice. The wheels are awesome. The ability to go on there and customize any wheels that you kind of want with whatever hubs, it's just awesome. And with all the brands that I'm riding for, like I have only chosen brands that I 100% trust and believe in. I have turned down brands that I just don't believe in. Like I would rather not get components or be paid to promote something that I don't genuinely believe in, because I just don't think that's the right thing to do. And then the family side, like if I'm speaking to a brand, I want it to feel good. Like I want to actually be speaking to somebody, and Noble was like just an awesome brand. Title as well. I'm really lucky to be riding on Title stuff.
Yeah, man, you get some rad components on that.
The Title bars are sweet, and again, I was riding those all last year, and unbelievably lucky to
obviously
continue
held up
that
to some
on.
abuse.
I mean, that's the thing. Like I ride things I trust, and if I build trust in something, I will continue to ride it. I don't see the need to change things. North Shore Billet as well.
Nice.
I love CNC parts.
Yeah, who doesn't, man?
Like they having everything up in Whistler and being built in Whistler is just really cool to have a local brand making amazing components. There's some pretty exciting things coming out, and all their products just keep getting better and better. Everything that I've put onto my bike has just felt right. Like I've never had something and been like, that feels. And I've had components before where you like tighten something up and you're like, I'm not sure about the feeling of it, whereas these, like, you almost don't notice and they just feel right.
Yeah, well-made stuff definitely makes a difference. And it plays into the mindset as well, doesn't it? It's like, if you're confident in your setup, you're not going to be thinking about that when you're dropping into something.
Yeah, that is something you do not want to be worrying about, is your actual bike before you go down something. And NRG as well, the distributor, they've helped me out, and Max's tires. Fantastic. I absolutely love Max's tires. I don't want to ride anything else. So using those Galfa rotors, and Cushcore as well. Riding for Cushcore, I was using Cushcore in my wheels all last year after breaking 3 alloy rims. Cushcore finally actually managed to stop me breaking rims, but also the traction that you get riding off camber stuff, especially like the sidewall support that it puts into the tire is really nice. It's not like folding over itself. And for me, riding down these silly slabs, I want as much grip as I possibly can. So running like 15 psi in the tires or whatever, being able to know that I can smash that front wheel into something and it's still going to grip, it's still going to hold. Also having the lower tire pressure is fantastic.
I love it, man. It sounds like quite the dream setup you got there.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats, because like you say, you're feeling super lucky that you've got out, you've done the work, you've put in so much work into this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
good
it's
stuff, man. I love
dream
it.
come true.
Now, I've got to respect your time here and make sure we get out for a ride while it's still sunny.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple of questions I want to kind of ask before the end.
Yeah.
We got a couple from our followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
The first one of those: what does he do to maintain that majestic stash?
Yeah, the stash is quite the mantelpiece, as I say. Yeah, I have a pair of scissors that I trim the bottom with, get it all perfect, and then I use hand soap to curl it.
Nice.
Yeah, I've used mustache wax and stuff in the past. The best thing I've ever found for having the perfect mustache is, a bar of hand soap. I use that, like, is it Sierra or something? I don't know. It's like a see-through one, so you don't really see it.
Yeah.
You just like wet it slightly, put it in, and it works really, really well.
There you go, guys. That's the scoop. If I didn't know already that you're a mountain biker, I would have asked if you climb.
Yeah.
Washing everything with hand soap.
Yeah. We can thank my girlfriend for the mustache. I grew it out as a joke one time, and it ended up being my Commonwealth Games. It actually ended up being on my passport.
Okay, so it's been around for quite some time.
Yeah, it was the second year I came out to Canada. I was like, I don't know anyone who's going to grow a mustache. Screw it. So I grew it out, went back, and then I needed to update my passport, and I had old photos, and the lady wouldn't allow me to do it. It was also during Movember, and it was like the last few weeks of it, and I was going to shave it off after, but the lady at the passport place was like, this photo isn't you. We need a photo of you currently. And I was like, well, it's Movember, and I'm actually going to shave this off in like, a week or whatever. And she's like, it doesn't look like you. And I was like, oh my god. So yeah, I had to go and get new photos. So I had the mustache. So it's just my girlfriend found a photo of me with the mustache, and I've been forced to grow it back.
So you've got to keep it now so that you can travel. Oh man, that's hilarious. But no, it's funny and it's a conversation starter, so I love it.
Yeah.
I know you had a couple more questions there from some of your followers.
Yeah, let's...
I've not pre-read these, so this is going to be fun. Let's get them out and see what people want to hear. Oh, we got lots.
Yeah, you can go for it, whatever.
Great, man. So here's a good one. What parts of BC have you not yet explored yet?
A lot.
Yeah, me too. It's a big place.
Yeah, I was saying before, I find it really difficult to leave Squamish.
Yeah.
Like the trails are so good. It's what I love riding. So I've ridden in Squamish. I've ridden in Whistler, up at Pemberton on the North Shore a few times. I went to Kamloops for a day. Went to Invermere for a day. I definitely want to get out and start doing some more exploring. And with the YouTube channel, once I've kind of finished my doing every trail here, that's definitely going to be the next goal, is kind of expand out and start doing more trail previews in different places. I'd love to be able to have the funds to kind of do like a bike park summer too, like just go around to all the bike parts and like kind of document those as well. But it's all things I can hopefully try and get done. Yeah, maybe not this. I don't think it'll happen this year, but next year.
Yeah, fantastic, man. It's so exciting to hear. You know, some big plans in the works there. Here's a question from everyone's favourite trail builders in Squamish, Dream Wizards. How many push-ups can you do?
No, we could find out. I'm honest. Like I used to be in my cross-country days. I did a lot of gym work, which is also part of the reason I've got the back problems. Back then, not. Yeah, I'm not. I could do a lot of push-ups back then when I was strong.
Yeah,
not so much anymore. But it's being strong on the bike is very, very, very important. It's something I kind of have neglected over the last little bit. But it's something I'm slowly trying to get back up onto. It
is hard, isn't it? When riding bikes is just so fun.
Yeah,
it's hard to want to go and do anything else.
Yeah, the gym's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I spent so many years in gyms that I much prefer riding my bike. But it definitely is a necessity, and for what I am doing now, you do want to be strong. I've been lucky and got away with a lot because of the technique I've built up over the years. Like, rather, looking at things being like, how smoothly can you ride it? I've got away with probably a lot more than I should have.
Nice. Speaking of riding smoothly, a couple people want to know how to maximize the stees.
The stees? Yeah. Oh, man, personally, I don't think I have much stees. being a cross country racer, like I used to be a hell of a lot more rigid than I am now, but it's just having fun. Like I just have fun. I honestly don't think I have that much style. I think I can do cool things like the endos. Like, it looks cool because it's an endo, but like watching someone like Colby, Pringle, or all the other boys, like, there's so much style in the way that they jump and stuff. Like, I wish I had that, but it's just natural. Like, these guys just have it naturally. You can build it up, but go to jumps and practice and build the style.
You're humble, mate. I do think the dirt jumper must help a lot there too, and these guys too, for sure. There's a level of natural talent, of potential there, but they've also put so many years into crafting that, and I'm sure they film themselves an awful lot and affect that style as well.
It's an art form. Like, when you start getting to that level, it's not just riding a bike. It really is art.
Absolutely. Someone wants to know here, what's your opinion on bicycle reach? Is too long?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think mountain bikes have changed a lot. So, like, me growing up, being a cross-country racer, also on Jersey, we didn't really have much mountain biking, so I just worked in road shops my whole life. So I'm a qualified bike fitter as well as mechanic and whatever. It's definitely, it's been interesting watching mountain bikes change, because reach used to be really important from a physical point of view. Like, you didn't want it to be too far out, too close in for pedaling and fitness. But mountain bikes these days are toys. Like, we don't have perfect pedaling positions on these bikes. Like, our seat tubes are really far forwards, which isn't putting us in a perfect position. So I think it comes down to what you want to ride and what you can ride. So somebody that's racing downhill probably want a longer bike. It's going to be faster. It's going to be more stable. Somebody that's doing more jibbing stuff, like, it doesn't matter if you're 6 foot tall. If you're riding a small bike, it's going to be easier to manual. It's going to be easier to bunny hop. It's going to be more fun for that person. Yeah, it's not going to be great for pedaling. You might be hitting your knees and stuff, but just that general ride, it's kind of, these days, it's figuring out what you want to do on a bike and then figuring out which bike is going to be the best for that. Reach is reach. Like, every bike is a different one. And I just think, figuring out what's going to play for you the best is going to work. Like, I've ridden large bikes, and it was faster and more stable in a straight line, but I don't really I like doing that, but I much prefer being able to manual bunny hop, like, just throw the bike around. So for me, something that's smaller with a higher stack is just a lot more fun.
I love it, Matt. Good answer. And again, aren't we just so lucky to live at a time when it's like, what kind of riding do you want to do? You can get the bike for it. It exists. It's there. So fantastic. We're going to wrap things up with a couple of quick fire questions here.
Go.
Who do you look up to in the mountain bike world?
Danny McCaskill.
Nice.
Yeah, he may not be a full-out mountain biker, but just the way that he's always having fun. He's always out there just living it up. The things that he does are just incredible, the lines he finds, and I think his mentality towards stuff too. Like, it just seems like a really, really fun guy, and the way he does everything is just, it's fun and nice, and there's no pressure, no ego behind it. Yeah.
I love it, man. Yeah, great rider to look up to. I know we've talked about a whole lot of different things. I've kind of jumped around all over the place with my questions here. But if you could pick one thing, what's the biggest takeaway that you'd hope listeners would take away and remember from this conversation?
Yeah, I think, again, just having fun. Mountain biking is supposed to be fun. We're out in the woods riding effectively kids' toys in the woods. Like, it's supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, go and find some way of making it fun. And if you're really not having a good time riding the bike, step away for a little bit. Go back and you'll have a good time. Fun.
Totally, Matt. Could not have said it better myself. For people wanting to follow along, where can people find you online and follow all the fun?
Yeah, so you can go onto Instagram. My handle is Ollie Lowthorpe, Ollie with 2 L's, IE. I also have a YouTube channel as well. And yeah, it's exactly the same on there. And yeah, I would love if you came and watched along.
Fantastic, dude. I love it. Thanks for such a great conversation.
Thanks very much.
I've had an absolute blast here, and I can't wait to get out on the bike with you.
Yeah, let's go riding.
Sweet, dude. Let's do it.
Sick.
What's up, guys? Just one more thing before you hit the trails. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe and don't be a stranger. I'd love to hear from you about any topics or particular episodes that you enjoyed, and even about any mountain bikers that you'd love to hear me have on the show in the future. You can find me on Instagram at the_mind_mountain. This podcast, mountain biking, and mindset are all things that are very, very close to my heart. So I feel super grateful to be able to share these conversations with you. Thank you all for listening. That's all for now. Big love to you all, and I'll see you next time.